It's a super day for reading and celebrating a popular local hero. Hello and welcome to Checked Out. We're broadcasting from Euclid Public Library in beautiful Euclid, Ohio. I'm Jean Robinson, multimedia and communications specialist.
And I'm Mike Stein, Assistant Manager of Adult Services. We talk about our favorite books, movies, services, and events with our favorite people in our favorite community. Each podcast will feature a theme. Today, we'll learn the story behind Superman. Our special guest today is Brad Ricca, author of the new book, Lincoln's Ghost, about Houdini and his crusade against spiritualism, and plenty of other books, including Superboys, that shares the amazing adventures of Clevelanders Joe Shuster and Jerry Siegel, who created the Man of Steel on Cleveland's east side back in the 1930s when they met at Glenville High School. Brad, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
So did you grow up reading Superman comics, and did that inspire you to research and write about Siegel and Shuster? I know you got a lot of Superman in your background.
Surprisingly, no. When I grew up, I loved comics, but I thought Superman was kind of lame. I liked the X-Men and Spider-Man. I was a Marvel guy. And this was the 80s, so I just thought that was just so cool. And it wasn't until a little later that I kind of got into Superman.
Yeah, he was always kind of mocked by calling him the big Boy Scout, the great Boy Scout. He was just too perfect.
Yeah, and that's kind of like, I don't know, when you're a kid growing up, it's a little, man, I hesitate in saying boring, but it was a little bit. I mean, of course, I loved the first movie. My dad took us to see that and loved it, but it was really that story of his creators. I grew up on the west side of Cleveland, and my dad owned his own business. He sold windows. And so on like any kind of random Saturday, he would throw me and my little brother in the back of the station wagon and go downtown. And he would, go to some of his places and check how the windows were going in and so on and so forth. And Cleveland back then was just this big metropolis, but half of it looked like it had been destroyed. It was abandoned or in rubble, and it kind of looked like Krypton. And he would give us these tales of Cleveland, we called them, just all the things that happen in Cleveland that we should know about and how Cleveland's so great. And we would sort of roll our eyes. But the one that always got me was that Superman was created in Cleveland by two kids. And to me, that seemed like the most outrageous lie of all. And I love Cleveland. And I can only say this because I'm from Cleveland, but I just remember saying, no way is that true. There's no way that something like Superman, who, even though I wasn't really into the comics then, I knew that he was the best of the best, right? The first superhero. There's no way he came from Cleveland. And that's the thing that like really sunk its claws into me and just never let go. By then I got older, I guess, sort of. I mean, not all the way, but and it was that I accepted the fact that he was created here, but I just wanted to know how they did it. How could these two guys, Jerry Siegel, the writer, Joe Shuster, the artist, come up with the first superhero?
Well, the book has the first stories and pictures ever published by the two, as well as where the first Superman story really came from and the inspiration for Lois Lane. How did you find those pictures, and who did inspire Lois?
So I just did the things I know how to do, is just go to the library and research stuff and find stuff out. And I found they wrote for their school newspaper in Glenville, and they had all these like science fiction stories, and then they made their own magazine with a Superman in it a guy they called Superman, but he was a villain. He was this bald villain like Lex Luthor. And so they knew that didn't work because it was a really bad story. They kind of stole it from somewhere else. And they just eventually just said, we're going to do what we want to do and do it our own way. And they started, taking little bits from the movies they liked and the strong men they would see and all this different stuff. And they came up with Superman. And Lois, I think, is the great story, because they had this idea of Superman and Clark Kent, which is really great. Uh, but they knew not just they needed a woman in there, but I think part of it, that really genius love triangle between Clark, Superman, and Lois. That's the reason I think we still talk about Superman, because that's so like funny at times and heartbreaking at times. And so they Joe was the artist, and he didn't, they're both poor, and he had no money to go to art school. He didn't get a scholarship, so he was self-taught. And they hatched this plan to get a woman model to come in, and he would draw it. And I always say, that I think was motivated by their desire to make Superman better, and it was also motivated by them being two, kind of just out of high school boys and thinking, oh my gosh, we're going to get this woman to come to the apartment and pose for us. And just almost out of sheer luck, there was a woman in high school, young woman in high school on the West Side, Joanne Kovacs, becomes Joan Carter later. She wanted to get out like so many people did. This is just after the Depression. She wanted to be a movie star, right? I mean, how many of us have had that dream? And she placed an ad in the Plain Dealer to be a model for someone. And the ad ran for one day. And it almost cost me my eyesight to find that ad, because I had to look through all the microfilm in the library for like 2 months. I would like sit there for 5 hours and come out and walk to my car, and everything was going like this. I was so dizzy. And I found it, and they answered the ad, and she came to the house, and Joe's mother was there the whole time to make sure everything was kosher. And she was kind of, she was young, she was kind of scrawny. I mean, so was Joe. And she had on her sister's bathing suit, and it was way too big, and she was kind of embarrassed. And Joe said, "Don't worry about it." And he sketched her, and in his sketch, she became this instant, Hollywood starlet, and they were friends forever after that. And then they had Lois Lane, and she was really the model for not only the physical model, but just that fiery personality that Lois has.
And we're talking with Brad Ricca, author of Superboys, about the history of creation of Superman by Clevelanders Joe Shuster and Jerry Siegel. Also, new book Lincoln's Ghost, which isn't about Superman, but we're here to talk about Superman. And this podcast is all audio, but we're doing it over Zoom, so I can see a big Superman picture over Brad's shoulder. He's modeling it there. Now, I believe you are also instrumental or part of the Siegel and Schuster Society of Cleveland. Is that right? And getting the Superman house and that statue that just went up and all. That's a big year for Superman here in Cleveland. Is that part of what you've been involved in?
Yeah, I'm very proud to be a founding member of the Siegel and Schuster Society, and it started way back when Mike Sangiacomo, who was then a reporter for the Plain Dealer, had an article, and he said, "Why aren't we celebrating Superman in this city? This is the big, like classic Cleveland, right?" But since then, we've done so much, largely because the cities has been so receptive to it, because they agree. Why aren't we celebrating our, this fantastic character? And since then, we've restored Jerry's childhood home in Glenville, which you can drive by and see. It's really cool. And you can go by Joe's old apartment where we have a big sign that has all the pages from Action Comics 1, Superman's first appearance. You can read them for free. It won't cost you $7 million. And we've done other things. We have the display at the airport that greets people off baggage claim. That's really great. And the big one, of course, was this summer. The statues were unveiled in late summer, and to me, that was always the big thing was to do statues. And so many people, me included, at times said it was impossible. But the group we had now, we got some newer people in, relatives actually of Jerry and Joe, and they got it done. And it is, I think it's spectacular. You can go look at it right in front of the Huntington Convention Plaza Center. It's the Superman Plaza is what it's called, and it's terrific. And we raised a lot of money for it. There's still some money left to be raised. I think of it as, I think Clevelanders really respond to this. Like, we really wanted to get it up for the summer with the movie, right? So it's like Christmas. You really want to get this present for someone, and you're like, oh, just put it on the credit card. Oh, and then January comes, and I got to pay it off. So we're kind of in January where we still have a little bit to pay off. A lot of it for like the upkeep of it. So if anyone wants to, this is my pitch. If anyone wants to donate and be part of this Superman statue, you can go to our website at the Siegel and Schuster Society. But more important than that, just please go visit. It is before the weather turns awful. Knock on wood, because it's so nice, and you can get so many good pictures, and you can just walk through it, and it's really special, I think.
Do you think we will ever see a Superman museum in Cleveland? And also, does the city feel a little competition from Metropolis, Illinois, who calls itself the official hometown of Superman?
That's a great question, Gene. I think, yeah, Metropolis was the first. They have a little museum, they have a statue, but it's really, really cool, and they've really done a lot there. I think as a museum, I have learned to never say never, because I thought for a long time we couldn't do a statue. There were so many obstacles in its way. So maybe we could. They have it for the Christmas story, right?
Yeah.
So why not Superman or some kind of I mean it's a tough kind of economy for museums right now, but never say never. I, for one, would love to see it. I've always thought it would look great in the Greyhound bus station.
That would
Um,
be a cool place.
wouldn't that look good? But they actually use it, so I think that would be a problem.
Well,
My dreams of, but wouldn't it be great to have like a Superman or a superhero
Mhm.
even museum in Cleveland where the first superhero was born? And there might be some competition with Metropolis, but that's far enough away, right? People can go to both places if they want.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't got to see the statue yet in person. I've seen pictures and it looks really awesome. We did
Yeah,
a video a few years ago at the Superman house, just walking around the outside, and those
nice.
comic panels look really cool, just talking about the history of Superman. Um, like we talked about when we started, Superman was kind of for a while considered boring, bland. All the stuff that you guys have done is not boring and bland. It's really cool, the statue and the house and all that. The new movie is awesome. I know you guys didn't create the new movie, but he's cool in the movie. Um, do you feel that the way you guys have treated Superman over the years has made people accept him as kind of cool? I think you guys, because we had Mike Sangiacomo and Michael Shevsky come to the library a few years ago to talk about Superman and statue and all that. Every time I've heard any of you guys talk about him, it's never, Superman, we'll just do this because he's from here. They make him cool. You guys make him cool, sound cool and everything. So do you guys feel that you've helped in making everybody else think of him as cool instead of the boring Boy Scout?
I never thought of it that way. I think that if that's true, that would be really terrific. Um, because I think that like now he has the new movie. It's like it's been like Batman for so long, and now it seems like it's Superman's time, and just everything came together. I think that the world, I mean, this other people have said this, and it sounds kind of corny, but the world like needs Superman, right? We're kind of over, and I like Batman, don't get me wrong, but enough with the dark alleys. I mean, we want some sun and some blue sky and some, yeah. So I think that would be great because it's always been our mission to have people think of Superman and immediately think of, okay, two people created him. And these were real people who just, created this thing to inspire others and really to inspire themselves. And that's as cool as it gets, right? So I think that's a really great point, and I hope it's true.
Well, let's talk about these two amazing young men that came up with the whole concept of Superman. One thing that surprised me when I read the book was that they didn't become rich when Superman became the world's most famous superhero. What was one of the most surprising things you discovered about the Superman creators when you were researching the book?
I think there were so many, really, and part of it is I wasn't sure of what I would find, but the whole thing that they sold the character off the first time it was published, kind of inadvertently. They had tried to sell Superman for like 7 years almost and sent it to every newspaper and some magazine places, and nobody wanted it. They would get these horrible, some of them horrible rejection letters saying, you can't draw, you can't write, you should go be a plumber. Just really awful. But the best part of the whole story, I think, is that they didn't give up. But even more than not giving up, they didn't change anything really. I mean, some parts here and there. And to me, that's like the most Cleveland part of the story, right? That someone's telling you this is terrible, and the Clevelander says, tough. I'm not going to change anything. But they finally sold it, and in selling it, which there's a lot of mystery still around, how that happened, they sold the rights. And so they still worked on Superman for 10 years, but they didn't own the character. So it's the character's publishers became extremely wealthy. And Jerry and Joe did well, but they did not share in the great wealth that the publishers did. And so that was kind of sad. But one thing that I did find is that even after they left Superman, 10 years later, they sued to, get some of those rights back, and they got some of them, but then DC Comics fired them. That they still worked in comics. They were still, that they weren't just so turned off by this awful experience, that they loved the medium so much that they were still working in these kind of not very successful comics enterprises, but they still loved it enough to keep going.
And we're here with Brad Ricca talking about Superman, who was born in Cleveland through the minds of Joe Shuster and Jerry Siegel back in the 30s, Glenville High School students. Now, I'm pretty sure they put a lot of Cleveland into the comics when they first started them, like Thermal Tower. What's the AT&T building now down on Huron Road? What kind of things did they draw into the comics or write into the comics when they were creating Superman?
I mean, this goes back to Gene's previous question, but they really put everything. And by that, I mean, they would definitely put geography and buildings, but they would put streets, they would put addresses, they would put names of people they knew, of friends and relatives. And some of the stuff I would find and I would show to people, some of them would be in their 90s. And I would say, hey, your cousin Jerry put you in this old comic as a little kid. And they were like, oh my God, I never knew this. This was the biggest surprise for me. And I think just the coolest part is Superman for sure, but all of their comics were really autobiographical. that they were putting themselves into these larger stories to kind of work things out. Nobody was Superman, but I think Jerry was like Clark Kent. He was a reporter in school, and Joe was always trying to get stronger through physical fitness. He was, like I said, kind of a scrawny kid. So that becomes part of, having this turning into this muscular character by just taking off your tie. So there's a lot going on, but I was just shocked by how much autobiography was in those comics.
Now, as we get close to wrapping up here, I'm not going to ask you if you saw the movie. I'm going to ask, how many times have you seen the movie that came out this year?
I have only seen it twice. Yeah. Did I see it twice? Yeah. Yeah.
Did you go to the premiere? Did you wait a week or two? Or
No, I saw it the opening night. I took my son, which was really cool. It was his kind of one of his first like big superhero movies in the theaters, and he loved it, which was great because I remember at his age going to see the first Superman movie that was, that blew my mind. Still the best one, I think. But he really liked it, and he of course loved the dog. So it was good. I think it's good. And how great is it? I don't, it's so I don't want to spoil it for people, but it's so good to see Cleveland, and it looks so good. It has this blue sky, and it just looks so awesome. And it will be that way forever because it's in the movie. So I really, sure, you pick Cleveland because of tax breaks and it's cheaper to film here, but I somewhere, in there, in that decision, I know was, well, we got to do it here because um, this is where it came from. And some of Jerry's grandsons are in the film, which is terrific to see. They're reporters at the Daily Planet. So I think it's just a really great homage to the city and just the spirit of where Superman comes from. So I think that's just awesome.
yeah, so much Cleveland in there and very apparent. I went to the Capitol Theater on the opening night. They had a lot of Superman creators
Yeah,
there, and they did a podcast afterwards. House of Kal-El, I think, House of L.
yeah,
And yeah, there was all kinds of cheers every time something
yeah,
that was Cleveland was on the screen. So
yeah.
yeah, really cool. Not bland.
No,
And
not at all.
Euclid Public Library will have a free screening of the Superman movie at the Shore Cultural Center on November 24th at 10:15 a.m. And I heard that there will be another Superman movie and filming will begin in 2026. Do you think Hollywood will return to Cleveland?
I don't know. I mean, I mean, they almost have to use the Daily Planet again,
Mhm.
you'd think. I know the outside was that, but uh, I know they don't like to repeat, you don't want it looking the same, right? So if they don't, I'll understand. But I know at some point they'll show the doorway to the planet, which is the leader building, right?
Mhm.
Every Clevelander knows that. So I'm sure it'll get in somehow, whether they come here or not. I hope they come back. That would be terrific, but it'll be in there somewhere.
Well, I think they did a couple of different Avengers movies here, at least filmed parts of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, they
Marvel
did.
was here more than once. So yeah, there's a
Mhm.
good chance that they'll do more here, or maybe a spin-off movie could be filmed here partially.
Oh, that'd be good. Yeah.
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 So before we go, can you share something about your new book, the Houdini's Ghost book?
Yeah, there's no superheroes. I'm trying to think. There's no Cleveland. But there's Houdini, who is kind of like a superhero. Um, yeah, so this book is about Houdini's basically the last year of his life. He kind of drops his career to go on a crusade against spiritualists. And this was a very popular practice of people who would speak to the dead. And it happened because it became popular because of World War One and the Spanish flu pandemic. And that's kind of how I got into thinking about writing this, is after COVID. How do we deal with all this? And so it's a whole story of Houdini trying to do that. And of course, he has enemies and he has adventures and he is cursed at some point. So it's it's the feel-good book of the year. No, it's really it's a Halloween book. And a kind of stretch Halloween book. If you like kind of scary stuff, I think it's the scariest thing. I was certainly scared writing it, but it's also very political. And it has Houdini, who is like really, really hard to understand because he does everything and he is just so, he seems like one of those people that comes along once in a million years, just like almost a cartoon character himself, just a ball of energy. No one can understand him, no one can contain him. And it was a lot of fun to write about him, even though it was a little maddening at times. So yeah, there's it's a little like there's some superhero-y stuff, but yeah, it's a little different.
And you say it will be out very soon?
Yeah, it's going to be out October 28th, which I'm super happy about because Halloween's my favorite holiday. Um, and so it's going to be out right before then. So yeah, hope people check it out. It has whether you're a Houdini fan or not, Abraham Lincoln's in it, or the ghost of Abraham Lincoln's in it. Sorry. And there's a lot of new secrets and surprises about Houdini that I found in it that I think people are going to find very shocking.
Very much looking forward to that. We'll have it at the library, and I'm sure all libraries around. I'm sure Amazon, all local bookstores, anywhere you get your books, you can get it, I'm sure.
Libraries for sure. Definitely. Love it.
Well, thank you very much, Brad Ricca, for joining us. He's the author of Superboys, about the history of Superman and the creation by Joe Shuster and Jerry Siegel, and instrumental in bringing the Superman statue and getting the Superman house restored here through the Siegel and Schuster Society. So thank you very much for joining us, Brad.
Thanks for having me. This was really great.
Thank you.
Now it's time for the library news you cannot use.
Brad might not have been born in Saginaw, Michigan, but he might want to head in that direction to see Michigan State University Library's comics collection, billed as the largest in the world. Located about an hour and a half southwest of Saginaw, the collection holds more than 250,000 books. MSU's Comics Studies librarian Jason Larson told MLive.com that people can actually touch the comics, though they all stay at the library. The collection started in 1970 and contains the first appearance of Wonder Woman, the appearance of the first Black female superhero, Hell Rider, published in 1971, and a hand-signed letter from Stan Lee. To view the collection, visitors must register online at least 3 days ahead of time.
And Gene, on your way back from Michigan State, maybe you can help solve a library mystery. Fremont's Rutherford B. Hayes Presidential Library Museums recently discovered one of its trees went missing. According to Toledo's WTOL.com, a tiny bristlecone pine, the only one of its kind at Spiegel Grove, home of the library, went missing in the middle of the night back in May. Believe it or not, all of the nearly 1,700 trees at Spiegel Grove are cataloged. Bristlecone pines are among the oldest living things on the planet, although the Hayes Library's tree was nowhere near close to that age.
Thanks for listening to Checked Out. You can learn more about Euclid Public Library by going on our website, euclidlibrary.org.